Hello everyone, Tommy J here and welcome to I Show You Games. Today I'm here to show you Aeon Command, which is a tug-of-war strategy game developed by Backcountry Games. So Backcountry Games is actually just a two-man team, and as far as I can tell this is their first game. They do have a second one on the way though, but they haven't really revealed any information about that one yet. Anyway, before we get into the game, let's have a quick look at the settings. So as you can see, it's pretty limited. You've just got your 3 volumes, resolution, and full screen. And yeah, that's about it. No graphics options in sight. But this is an iOS port, or at least a multi-platform release, and it doesn't look incredibly bad, so yeah, you probably don't really need the graphics options. Anyway, the best way to explain this game to you is probably just to show you. So I'm going to start up a little skirmish match, just leave it on easy for the sake of explaining. And let's get right into it. Okay, so in this game, as I mentioned, it's a tug-of-war style game, so the point of the game is to defend your own mothership, which is here on the left, and destroy the enemy's mothership, which is here on the right, and this is just the lane in between. So when the game starts, you start with just a basic worker type ship, and then a basic fighter type ship. And yeah, your workers will gather resources that are near your main ship, mainly metal, which is just this little gem symbol down here, and they'll return it to your ship, and then you can use that to buy either ships, to unlock ships, so if I just go to the research menu here, I can unlock, say, the artillery ship, or to upgrade ships, so I can upgrade the weapon or the hull of the fighter here. So let's do both of those. Now, in the standard mode, which is classic, you can only have, I think it's 10 workers per mothership, but in other modes they increase that limit, which can be pretty cool. Anyway, since it's on easy, let's actually go through and unlock all of the ships and actually show you some of them, because every ship is different, and there are 3 races, all with completely unique ships, so that's, what, 18 different ships? Yeah, some of them are really, really cool. Okay, so unlock just those last 2, and I'll upgrade the fighters a little more. So let's actually spawn a couple of fighters. So you'll notice that as I'm spawning, the ability to spawn actually goes on cooldown for a little bit. Grayed out just means you don't have enough resources, but if I have enough, it will have that little number on top, and that's just to stop you saving up resources and then stacking up like 50 ships on top of each other. Anyway, keep those fighters going. So these are just the basic fighters for the faction I'm on, and these here are the basic fighters for the other faction. So mine are this little laser, whereas they have their little machine guns. And they actually have a ship called a Disruptor there, so that's just interrupting everything I do and freezing my ships essentially in place. They also have these ones here which create clones of their ships and fool your ships a little, because in most tug-of-war style games, you don't actually have any control over the units whatsoever, so it's more about spawning the correct units as opposed to actually micromanaging or anything like that. So let's upgrade the starships. Now, I'll spawn a couple more of the ships just to show you. So this big one right here is the starship, and that is the strongest ship I have, but it costs the most by a fair bit. Then this one here is, I think it's called a Typhoon Hurricane, sorry. It's called a Hurricane, I was close. And it does a chain lightning attack that actually looks pretty cool. This one here, that's number 4, I think, will actually shield one of your other ships, so once that gets into combat, it'll chuck a shield on it, which can be pretty handy for holding off enemies. And then there's one more I have. This one here. What's it called? The Tractor. And what it does is it will actually grab an enemy ship and drag it all the way back to your base. And it just disables it while it's dragging it. And it's actually really cool, because it'll drag it back to your base and your mothership will just destroy it. Anyway, let's just spawn some units and finish this game so I can show you some of the other races. Upgrade both of them. So yeah, progressively as you go through, the upgrades do get more expensive. Unfortunately, you don't actually know how much anything hits for. Like, does the starship at level 1 hit for more than the fighter at level 2 kind of thing? You really have no idea. So something else that I haven't mentioned is that you have a couple more resources aside from just your metal. The other resources are energy and parts. Now, I'll explain parts in a little bit, because that's a bit more, it's not actually within the game itself. It's a after game kind of thing. It's an upgrade system, but energy is. So what happens with energy? Every time you kill an enemy ship, actually they're gonna overrun me if I don't spawn some units. Every time you kill an enemy ship, you'll get 4 energy, and energy lets you use these abilities. So for example, I have a heal in an AoE or a disable, bit of an EMP there. So just disable their ships for a short time. I'll let mine get the upper hand. Now, my third ability is a nuke, and it's more expensive, and it just does some big damage in an AoE, so I'll try and save up so I can use that. Let's spawn a couple more ships. And try and push down the enemy. So yeah, this is just on easy, so it's a bit shorter than other games. Let's pick that up. But in general, games last anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes a bit longer if you're having trouble pushing them down. So that firewall you saw there was actually this race's third ability. Actually, I have enough for nuke. Let's drop a nuke there. Yeah, so it looks pretty cool. Does a heap of damage. Health bars above the units. And I'll just drop a heal to keep those guys alive. Now, one thing is that some units will move faster than others. And what this means is that you're going to want to spawn your big slower things first, otherwise the faster units will get to the enemy, die, and then your bigger units will get there and have nothing to protect them. It's pushing down, so once you get into their workers, they're probably a bit more screwed from that point. So yeah, aesthetically, this game isn't terrible. It's actually pretty nice. Like, while it's simplistic, it does look quite good. All the ships are unique in their look. You don't really look at them and get confused, which is always good. Particularly when you're going to be wanting to counter one of their ships with a different one of your ships, so you don't want to get confused about which they're using. And yeah, just the backgrounds in general, the scenery, it all looks nice. And that satisfying explosion there. So, for winning the game, you get the score, just multipliers and things, and then you get an overall score and bonus parts. Now, I think the bonus parts are actually related to what difficulty level you're playing on. But what you can do with them is this general upgrades thing here. So, you've got general upgrades, which will apply to all factions, and if I just go into them, it's things like reduces the amount of time required by miners to gather resources, increases the amount of resources automatically generated. Let's actually turn up the automatic energy generation. And then you've got faction-specific things. So you can upgrade your mothership to be stronger. Each of your 3 abilities can be upgraded to be stronger. And then you can upgrade each of your individual ships. So I might actually go into cyborgs because I'm going to play them next, and I do quite enjoy them. So what are their abilities? Assimilate. Reduces the energy cost. Yeah, let's go with that. And you know what? I like the carrier, so let's make that a bit stronger. Okay, so yeah, those upgrades will persist between matches, and they're pretty much just permanently on your account. Now, before I go in and show you some other modes in Skirmish, I just want to talk a bit about what else there is available. So you've got the tutorial, and then you've got the campaign. Now, the campaign has 24 missions. There are 8 for each race, and they kind of progress you through the races, teaching you what each thing does, because there is no in-game tooltips kind of thing when you're in skirmish mode. You can't just hover over that basic fighter and be like, oh, okay, it's a basic fighter, it has a laser attack, or this is a sapper, it will blow itself up to deal damage to enemies. So yeah, you learn that in the campaign. Then, yeah, you also have multiplayer. There's online matchmaking, and then there are private matches where you can actually invite a friend on Steam. So that's always handy to have, particularly if you're having trouble finding a match in multiplayer. Anyway, I'm going to play the cyborgs. Blah. Let's verse the Alliance. Actually, let's verse Scramble. So there are a whole bunch of different modes. And one of the things you can do to change it up a bit is Scramble. Now, every single faction will have their worker unit, then a basic unit, then kind of an artillery-ish unit. So while they're different, they do follow a sort of guideline. What Scramble does is it will randomly select any of the units for each of your things. So it'll select you a random worker, it'll select you a random basic unit, it'll select you a random artillery, and so on and so forth. So you can actually get really cool mixes that can change up your strategies and things like that. Now, there's also 3 game modes. Classic is the one we were just playing, the normal lane. Then there's Close, where essentially the lane is just half the length, so the motherships are much closer together, the game will be a bit shorter. And then you have Resources. So instead of the resources being in clusters around your mothership, they're spread the length of the entire lane, and it also makes the worker cap higher. So you can send your workers 3/4 of the way down the lane to get that metal for your construction, but they're really overextended, so you need to protect them. And we're actually going to try that one. So Cyborgs versus Scramble. And let's go. Hopefully the game doesn't go for too long. Okay, so just starting off, making some workers. And yeah, the game generally starts pretty slow, but as you can see, all of these purple nodes, they are where you mine your resources, so they are just really extended. And it looks like they got the Alliance ship. So yeah, each of the motherships do have different abilities that they use to defend themselves. I think the one I am at the moment shoots rockets out, whereas the Alliance ship will shoot out all these little mini carrier kind of things. Like these little jets that will just blow things up. So I have a lot of workers. Probably close to overextending, so it might be time to upgrade some things. Now, since this is against a normal computer, I'm probably not going to be picking up things, or picking up everything, but I will be upgrading specific things just to make a strong army. Medic or Sapper? Medic's cheaper. Really, I'm just trying to get to the Bane, to the Carrier, and then the Dragon. Because it's really interesting, because of how the research and unlocking system works, you can actually change up your strategy based on what you want to do. And yeah, you can build around strategies, just quickly buffing up some of these units, and yeah, it works quite well. Now, we won't actually purchase the carrier yet. Let's get the Bane going and get a couple of my little guys out. So there's the Bane there. Now, the Bane is actually very difficult to deal with if you're versing a computer player using them. What it does is it shoots poison rockets. And those rockets will actually create a poison cloud on everything they hit, and they pierce through enemies. So yeah, it's quite difficult to deal with. They've just gone their standard unit and one of the shielders. Yeah, so here are those poison rockets, just a big damage over time area of effect type attack. Now, let's make sure we keep upgrading things. Upgrade the Bane again, and I'll spawn another one. So, there are a lot of ways you can play this game. You can wait until an enemy pushes right up to you and then just send out a massive wave of troops and just decimate what they've got and hope that they can't do the same to you. There's one of those ships pulling one of mine back to the mothership I spoke about earlier. Or you can send more of a constant stream of units, and if it's things like the Bane, you can actually really hold an enemy back, or the things like this one here shooting those electric balls. So something I haven't mentioned yet is these, and these are pickups, and I assume this is on the iOS devices as well, and that's probably why they're here. So every once in a while, when you kill a unit, it'll actually give you a drop. Ooh. They are... No, silly ships, attack their fighters, not their... Damn it. Attacking the closest, or the furthest forward thing, which just happens to be a worker. So let's get some ships out. A research carrier, upgrade the Bane's attack, and send a bunch of ships down there. Might even make a few artilleries. So artillery is... more pickups. Artillery is just your standard long range, shoots missiles kind of thing, but their missiles do look different and do act a bit different based on what faction you're on. Let's actually convert you. This faction's big power, they're really expensive power, just converts one of their own, or one of the enemy troops to you. Which can be very handy, particularly if there's something strong. I mean, they did end up just towing it away. Those dicks. But, yeah, what you gonna do? Okay, so spawning some carriers now, because they are just beastly. And I'll upgrade their weapons and hull, and then the Bane's weapons once more. So yeah, essentially my plan right now is use the Banes and the Carriers for damage, while using the Dragons as just meat shields. And I'll put their hull to level 5. Now, how far out is the enemy actually extended? A fair way. I should make some more workers. If they get ahead of me, it could cause some problems. Let's convert you before you can do damage to me. There we go. And here are my carriers with all their tiny little ships from within. So yeah, I've mentioned my third ability, which is just the conversion, but the first one on this race is in an area of effect just like that. It'll speed up your unit's attack, or in the case of carriers, it'll just make them spawn all their little units faster. And then my second ability is kind of a demoralize in an area, so if I were to use it on these guys, I assume they hit not as hard. But yeah, it's pretty much like that, or it lowers their defenses. Can't remember. Anyway, let's make sure we keep producing units, because if they manage to push me back, as they've done, it could cause a bit of a problem. Let's actually take control of that. Oh! I took control of one of the towing ships, which was beneath the carrier. So it started towing that carrier. Or their frigate. I think it's called a frigate. Actually, no, it is a carrier, because he's on scramble. Right. Well, let's convert you. No, can't convert the big unit. Oh well. Learn something new every day. Let's boost you guys, get more ships out of you. And hopefully we can hold our own. There we go. So if you destroy the ship that's towing one of your units, like one of the things was towing this little guy here, they'll just release it and drop it. And pick up the energy. Let's get you. And instantly towed. Damn it. Really got to deal with them. So let's just start upping some more stuff. And spawn a whole bunch of carriers and banes. So, as I mentioned earlier, this game is available on a lot of different platforms. It's actually out on the iOS, Android, Kindle Fire, Mac, Linux, and PC. So you're probably wondering, how is the PC port? It's actually pretty good. Like, I am actually quite impressed with the degree to which they've ported this. Like, it not only looks good and has the full resolutions that it's not just scaling things up, things actually look good. You've also got full mouse and keyboard control, so I can use A or D to pan here. I can use the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or Q, W, E to use my abilities and spawn ships, or I can use the mouse to do the lot. See, if I grab up here, I can actually go to a point on the minimap, or I can just drag and pan like that. Or just click the ability. Or ship. The army of carriers. You got this. Let's just spawn another army of them. And hopefully they don't get taken down. Now, what can I take over? This one here. You're mine. And I probably have enough energy to take over another one in a second. I want this one once he gets a bit closer so he doesn't just get towed away. There we go. So yeah, the game can be quite difficult at times, and you can have some pretty long games. I actually had a game that lasted, I think it was about 18 or 20 minutes. But in general, if you're rushing someone down or just trying to make it a quick game, or even just playing on close instead of resources, because there are more resources available on this map, so you do have those longer games because more units, then yeah, your games will be fairly short. Can't take him, I can take him. There we go. So yeah, that mothership's defense, I think some of those little ships are it. Maybe? There are just ships everywhere at this stage. I have no idea what's happening. It's brilliant though, because I'm about to win. Hahaha. So yeah, the game can be quite challenging, even on normal. Like, I lost a game on normal about half an hour ago. And it was just because I was being silly and I didn't stick to a plan and just started messing around a bit and got pushed back. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Anyway, overall, this game really isn't bad. The gameplay itself is pretty satisfying. and can sometimes be quite challenging. The campaign's a great way to learn the game, and some of the levels changed up a bit with unique mechanics, such as like a black hole, or a whole bunch of black holes, and as you move along, they'll suck you in. So the research and upgrade systems are extensive enough that you can change up your strategies between games if you want to, and multiple different setups in Skirmish mean that there is that little bit of variety. And the Scrambled faction only adds to that, as you'll likely get a different set of units every time. So yeah, the faction you're playing will be different every time. The aesthetics are good for what they are, and it's always clear what's actually going on, which is always important in a game that involves strategy. Also, the addition of private matches means that if you can't find a game using the online matchmaking, you can still set one up with your friends over Steam. Also, this game's pretty fairly priced in my opinion. When I first looked at it, I was expecting somewhere between $5 to $10, but I was wrong. You can pick it up for $2.99, or your regional equivalent. And honestly, this game is a pretty good example of a PC port that has gone right, because you're just able to control with your keyboard, mouse, or a combination of the two. It is, however, lacking in those graphics options, but I don't think this game would be strenuous on many systems. So there is a demo available on the creator's website, so aeoncommand.com I think that is, and there's also a link to purchase from them directly, and if you do that, you will get the soundtrack for free since it supports them a bit more. But yeah, the game is available on Steam if you want to go that route. Anyway guys, this has been Tommy J with I Show You Aeon Command. If you found the video helpful, feel free to favorite, like, and or subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a good one.